Hey there, comic book friends. I'm Travis. This is the Comic Book Roundtable. And with me, once again, I have Damien with me. How's it going, sir?
Hey, everyone. Damien, Sleepy Reader here. Glad whenever I can make it when time works out.
Yes. Happy to have you here. This is technically the first show of 2019, so excited to jump into the new year of comics. To put you on the spot, what's the comic that you hear about that's coming in the near future that you're most excited about in 2019?
Oh man, that is putting me on the spot.
Mine is.
I was all excited about Criminal. It came out this week.
Yeah. So have you read it yet? Have you read Criminal yet?
Yes, I have. But I'm not. I'm embargoed from talking about it. Probably.
Oh, okay. Oh, I was just going to ask.
Have you read it too?
I have not read it yet. But are you excited about it after reading the first issue?
Yes, I am.
Good. No, as we were talking a little bit off air, I'm still concerned about the coloring of it versus the coloring of books prior. But I'll be talking about that next week, I'm sure, after I actually.
Well, it may not be smart to lay the two books next to each other as you read it and remind yourself that the coloring could have been better, but the coloring was fine. It was still interesting coloring in my
Right. It didn't degrade the book to the point of being unreadable. So that's good. For me, the book I'm excited most about is Little Bird, and I kind of remember it's coming out, and then I forget about it, and then I remember it's coming out.
That is very exciting. Yeah, I saw it in previews.
Yeah,
I have previews sitting right here. I saw it with that really good artist whose name I can't remember.
Ian Bertram.
Ian Bertram. I love Ian Bertram.
Yes,
so that's very exciting.
Yeah, and I saw previews of it on his cell phone last year when I was at Emerald City Comic Con. He was there, and no one is around to talk to him, so I got to talk to him for quite a while, and I had mentioned that because I follow him on Instagram, and I mentioned that I had seen stuff, and he's like, "Oh, well, I've got colored pages," and he whipped out his phone, and I got to preview, I don't know, 7 or 8 unscripted. I mean, there's no words to any of it. But I had to see 7 or 8 pages of the comic, and I'm really excited about that. After House of Penance, man, I am
House of Penance. Yeah, that was it. Yeah,
I'm so on board for any art that he's doing and whatnot. So, and it's a French comic. Or, it is.
It's already printed in France and now translated to here.
That's my understanding. Is that they were published in France first, and then coming to Image was going to be the publisher for it in worldwide publication, I guess.
So that reminded me, because of things that I've looked at in previews, I am very excited for Invisible Kingdom.
Yes,
by G. Willow Wilson and a guy we were just talking about,
Christian Ward. Yeah,
I'm really excited to see him sort of outside of Marvel Comics and doing something, more out there.
Yeah, Christian Ward's another one of those artists that pretty much, unless it's a character I just truly despise, if he's gonna do a run of something, I'm going to try it out regardless of that. I just like his artwork enough that I really enjoyed his Black Bolt was really interesting and stuff. So and putting him on a cosmic book, at that kind of
and outside of any limited previous universe, so that he can just create whatever he wants to create is exciting,
which is largely why I enjoyed Odyssey, was just because I mean, other than having the trappings of being the story of the Odyssey, he kind of took it where he wanted to as far as visually.
Obviously, he could create his own worlds, the spaceships and the weird worlds they visited and the way people looked, and there was no model he had to follow. So he did it. I mean, I liked his art on Black Bolt, but I liked it way better on Odyssey. So
I mean, clearly the Black Bolt, to some degree, you're kind of you have to follow certain constraints.
You can't stray too far from the looks of things.
Yeah,
and within those limits, he did a great job. But I'm just glad to see him outside of those limits.
Right. Same here. So, and I'm looking forward to G. Will Wilson writing that book. Just getting her out in the independent world again, where she can kind of venture where she wants to, as opposed to
I mean, it's certainly. Sometimes we get women writing far out there science fiction, but it tends to be the realm of male writers. So I'm kind of excited because I've read so many far out science fiction stories. I'm more excited for someone who might come from a slightly different angle, trying that genre.
Right.
So yeah, on both the writer and the artist, that's an exciting one to me.
Yeah. All righty. Well, let's talk last week's comics. We're gonna do the typical. We'll talk Marvel and talk some DC. And we'll talk some independent books and whatnot. I'm gonna briefly talk about the Hulk issue number 11. Though every time I read this book, I'm reminded just how much I really like this book. This is probably, if I was gonna make a list, and I decided this year I wasn't gonna strain myself trying to make a list of top books of 2018. Right. This would be a book that would easily be in my top 5. Easily of all the books, and that to me is shocking that it would be a Marvel book and it would be the Hulk on top of that. I just really like the way this book is written. The art in it I think is amazing. I know that on Twitter, Wednesday Serial Matt was giving me a hard time about a panel I posted because there was a funny lip on the panel I posted. But I like that sequence of panels and the conversation that's going on there. So in this issue, they have been teleported to, they've been drugged through this green door to hell. Now,
who's they?
The Hulk,
just Banner and the Hulk, or some
the Hulk. The Hulk has been pulled there. A reporter who from issue 1 has been following him. Her story, her basic backstory is when she was a little girl, the Hulk crushed her town and like was crushing her house. And her dad is like, don't look at him. Don't look at him. If you look at him, you'll get his attention. And she actually locked eyes briefly as this like maybe 10-year-old, 8-year-old girl locked eyes with the Hulk. And it kind of did something to her from that point forward. Right. So, and the Hulk has been dead. I mean, Banner, was killed in the Marvel universe. Hawkeye killed him and whatnot. So everybody thought Banner was dead and gone. But he's kind of arisen. As it were. Right. And so she has been following the first kind of hints that the Hulk's there. I mean, kind of being kind of the conspiracy theory almost type reporter. And of course he's real. So he's really there. So she starts reporting and she's got herself hooked up because she's kind of the resident expert on tracking him down right now. She has been hooked up with bits and pieces of what's left of Alpha Flight. So Puck and, ex-Sasquatch, because Sasquatch can't be the Sasquatch anymore. His powers have been totally sucked away from him. He can't Hulk out anymore. The Hulk has like stolen that from him. Has absorbed his energy to do that.
I remember you talking about that in
right. And there's some other like evil entity that has been kind of crisscrossing between these people. It was in the Hulk for a while. The Hulk gets into a big battle with Absorbing Man, who has kind of been hulked out himself. And the Absorbing Man can like steal the radiation out of the Hulk and make the Hulk skinny. That's why in this, the Hulk has emaciated looking arms and stuff because he's been in this big fight.
He's been absorbed.
And in the process of that, Absorbing Man then takes on this evil entity. And all of them kind of get pulled through this door of sorts, this green door. So in this realm of hell is Puck, is Crusher Creel, Absorbing Man, this reporter and the Hulk. So the reporter and the Hulk are one group wandering around trying to figure out what's going on, and Puck and Crusher Creel are another group. The way the story is written here is there'll be these black and white pages of like destroyed stuff and whatnot, kind of having a conversation about what is hell. So this kind of, I've discovered over the last couple of years that I have a real soft spot for comic books that want to wax philosophy in some sense or another, whether that's religious or just kind of thoughts of mind or whatever. So this kind of like addresses, what is hell? Is hell a place, or is hell hell isn't like a absence of God. It's not atheism. It's actually God was there and God has chosen to turn away. That would be hell, kind of this conversation, while kind of interspliced between these different groups doing the different stuff they're doing. And that kind of sets up kind of a thought pattern to, maybe what's going on in here. There's a great conversation between the reporter and Hulk, because it's definitely not Banner. When Hulk is the Hulk, Hulk is Hulk. He's not Banner at all. Banner's this other entity, and the Hulk is smart and whatnot. But they have this conversation about the fact that that one of the first times they meet as an adult, he asks her, if you could ask me one question, what would it be? And her question was, how can I be you? And so he readdresses with her with that. And through that conversation, she basically has this conversation about the fact that she wants to have the same ability as the Hulk. Not necessarily turn into the Hulk. I mean, that would be cool too, because who wouldn't want to be giant and, you know, beat whatever you need to beat up or whatever. But just the fact that he rages and destroys an entire town. And, you know, next week he's forgiven and he's back in the Avengers being a superhero. You know, he stomps some people to death, and Iron Man goes and finds a paradise planet to put him on. You know, bad things never really happen to him when he rages and is violent and all that kind of stuff. And if she gets angry as a Black woman, you know, she is put in her place, and she wants that. She wants to be able to feel.
Oh, those were the panels you put on Twitter.
Yeah, that's part of that.
I didn't realize that was from the Hulk, actually.
Yeah, yeah. She wants to be able to have unbridled rage and be angry and have the same level of accountability as the Hulk seems to. Right. You know, because he kind of mentions, well, you know, I got shot into space once. And he's like, oh, yeah, you got shot into space instead of just shot. And he's like, okay. So the Hulk actually kind of likes her because she wants to just embrace the rage. I mean, he doesn't want her to be the Hulk or anything, but he's like, okay, yeah, I can respect the whole, you know, embrace the rage. You know, I don't know. I just really like the comic. I love the artwork. You know, this beautiful coloring, I think, this kind of very stable. And every issue, one of the things that's really cool about it is as you're going along, here's the black and white stuff that almost feels like film as we're kind of waxing the philosophy about what hell is and that sort of stuff. When action starts, and it's a Hulk comic, so every issue has got, you know, somebody punching somebody else in the face. Hulk rips a lot of people in half in this book. That's his go-to attack. Is to like stick his thumbs in your eye sockets and then peel your skull in half, which is nice. You know, really wicked looking. But as soon as battle scenes start, it's like the pages get turned in some other way. So it's almost like the action or the punches are like, you know, hitting your page and make it right. And I love visually, I love that. I mean, it just, like, to me, it's
been punched a little bit.
Right. You just immediately starts this, you know, and once the action is over with, then that, it settles down. It settles back down. It settles back down into stuff. Now, I'm sure there's little stuff, little names that are being dropped and what that I don't, because I don't have a historical background with the Hulk at all to know, right. You know, to know who some of this stuff is, you know, kind of thing. I think there's some people, there's like this guy, and I don't know if it's the Banner's father that kind of keeps being around, that's kind of hovering around this green door and is part of this whole evil spirit thing. I don't know. You know, that's the stuff I don't know. And who is Brian Banner? I don't know who Brian Banner is. Is that his dad?
I don't know.
Yeah, so there's some stuff that's being dropped that I'm not 100% sure if it's just new stuff or if it's stuff that obviously if I had a Hulk background, I would go, oh yeah, you know, that's harkening back to this or the other. But just a really great, really, really great comic.
Cool. I feel really bad that I didn't jump on that early on when people first started raving about it. Now I've read the first 2 issues on Marvel Unlimited. If there were, they must be releasing trades, but I haven't noticed. Maybe I should. I'd like it in hardback now that I hear about it.
Yeah, there has to be a first trade out. It comes out almost twice a month. It's like some months it comes out twice.
That explains why it's on 11 and I have the first 2 issues, which are because that everything's right. 6 months old on Marvel Unlimited.
Right. So like I said, it's like it seems like some months it comes out twice a month. Then there are other months maybe it doesn't.
Right. I think Marvel plays games with that in the way they game the ordering system,
which to me is amazing because I'm trying to think. I think there might be an issue that was done by somebody else art-wise because it was kind of like a whole flashback thing, maybe. Or maybe I'm thinking of a different book. But it's all been this artist. It's all been this art team. So it's all been is it Joe Bennett? Is that who it is?
I think it is.
Yeah. Joe Bennett on pencils, Rai Jose on inks, and Paul Mounts doing the colors. It's been them for every issue. And it's been Alex Ross covers for every cover. Like I said, I'm just I'm just really tickled with the book and it being, you know, I mean, for somebody who, you know, most people would identify me as hating Marvel. I just
right.
I just don't associate the book as being a
Marvel book. Have you read Al Ewing before?
Yes. Al Ewing wrote a run of Loki that I really liked.
Oh, Loki. Oh, really?
Yeah. Okay. I liked his he did the Ultimates too. I was enjoying the Ultimates, but it kept getting messed up with Marvel event crap.
Yeah.
And this book has seemed very immune to any of that. I mean,
so far.
Yeah. There was like one issue. There's like one issue that had some of the Avengers in it. They come and try and snatch him. And other than that, it has been, it's been removed from the Marvel universe largely, kind of a thing. So it's been, like I said, it's been.
Maybe this is Marvel finally letting Al Ewing, I want to call him Ewing, Al Ewing do what he does best, because he's without him having to work within the confines.
Right.
I read something by him called Zombo that he did for 2000 AD at some point, which was a gonzo thing about this biological weapon.
Oh, wow.
That was part zombie. And, but it was in typical 2000 AD fashion. It must have been, published in 4-page installments.
Right.
So it just didn't have as continuous of a plot as American comics do.
Right.
It was definitely different than anything else I'd read. So I was almost surprised when I saw that he was a Marvel writer.
Right. Right. Well, I would recommend the book. I mean, to basically just about anybody, just because it's enough of its own thing that it's really cool. Yeah, for sure. So we can talk about your Marvel book.
Marvel comic of this past week. Why don't you, even though you've just done a lot of talking, would you mind giving your thoughts on this?
Sure. I just want to ask one question though, because I full disclosure, I just got done watching almost all of Damien's video.
Get off rant on this comic.
Yeah, get off my lawn. No, it wasn't a rant. You did an excellent job of talking about why it is that you were not into this, into this comic and into this issue and whatnot. And it totally makes sense what you're talking about. And I'll here in a second, I'll have a conversation about my own experience with that sort of thing. But I do have one question for you. Did you like Arnold Schwarzenegger's movie, The Conan?
Not very much.
Is this not a comic book version of that reality in that world?
It does seem like Jason Aaron took that as his starting point and extrapolated.
Because it really is all about booze and women and flex a muscle and
Arnold's key line is loving hearing the lamentations of his enemies' women, and that comes straight from the script writer of that movie, who is a well-known arch conservative of a Reagan era extremist. He's also wrote Red Dawn, so he has a very I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it because not all conservatives think that way.
Sure. But that's what this reminded me of when I read it. I'm like, and I'm reading it and I'm like, okay, I'm not the Conan connoisseur that you are. I mean, I think old Conan for me visually is really, really cool. And
I once tried to push some Barry Smith Conan on you years ago because I was hoping to convert you.
No, now, like I said, visually, I really enjoy it. I mean, I like it. I like the Buscema stuff. I mean, old Conan is really cool visually. It really is. And whatnot. But like I said, for me, I read this and I'm like, oh, this is homage to
Arnold.
to that movie. To me, that's what it's like. Okay, that's and I don't know how long I'm going to stay on the book. It's not awful, but it does not. It's the base of at least this first issue is the base of fantasy story for me, and I want something more than that, than that base thing. There has to be some other element. Now, Jason Aaron may throw that in the next issue because I'll get a few issues. May throw something else in that. To make me more interested. but I don't know if it's going to stay this, then I'll be done quickly. I don't read a lot of fantasy stuff anymore.
I think Jason Aaron is trying to do what he did on Thor, you know, pre Jane Foster Thor.
Right.
This contrasting a person who was a dumb brute as a youth to his slightly less dumb brutishness as a more mature man.
Right.
You know, which is what in Thor, he had the 3 ages of Thor. And the first Thor, you know, just loved to go down among the mortals and party and lay all those mortal chicks
those first issues of that Thor, because I have the first couple arcs of it, are even those first couple issues are way more interesting than this was.
True. But it may, well, yeah.
For me, there was nothing.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, perhaps.
For me, there was nothing in this issue that made me go, I wonder what's going to happen next issue.
Right.
You know, he gets tricked by a witch, you know, gets almost drained, gets in a fight. She comes, you know, many years later, you know, her rotting corpse is still causing him problems.
Right. And he beat the witch the first time through pure brute strength, basically.
Right. So end of story. I mean, that's, so to me, that's not that intriguing. Now I thought the art was fine. I enjoyed the art. But you know, your comments about the fact that lots of, you know, blank panels, 100%. If I were going to compare it to, you know, your golden age of Conan, 100%. There's nothing rich. There's nothing rich about this.
Yeah, I mean, those 2 pages are perfect. It's just kind of a red blur behind.
Right.
them.
I mean, the characters themselves, I'm fine with the way that they're drawn and whatnot. But there's none of the other elements that are part of. I mean, heck, I can remember as a kid going through the grocery store, and there would be the magazine, a book rack at the grocery stores as a kid, and there would be Conan books on the shelves, and they'd have these, you know, Frazetta painted, I think it was Frazetta anyway, painted covers of Conan, and even those, which just had this elaborate. I was you know, as a kid,
right here, I have them with me.
Exactly, I was entranced with those covers because, I mean, and they're not deep backgrounds, but there's still enough there to. I mean,
they're lush in some violent, barbaric way.
Right. Now, see the
cover is great.
Cover is great. The cover is like, that looks like the cover of those old books. I mean, it does.
It's like a Frazetta cover in its, you know, sense of depth and all.
Right. Yeah. But that's not what's in the book. And I get that, you know, to some degree, I don't know, our artists of our youth, Damien, were these like supermen who could do this incredible stuff seemingly in a monthly. At least
the ones that we remember.
Right. In a monthly comic, because monthly comics largely do not produce that anymore.
Right. But this art to me also says what matters here is only the violence.
Right. The big action shot.
And I guess, you know, I became in love with this stuff when I was 10 and 11 and continued, you know, on and off the rest of my life. I guess somehow I like it when the violence is in the context of this deeply imagined world much more.
Right.
Than violence by itself.
Right. And I would say part of that is because you're not a new reader. As a new reader in a new book, to some degree, I would think that whole world we need to be introduced to. And there's no way in 20 pages we're going to get introduced to the whole world, right?
Right.
But we didn't get introduced to any of it other than here's an ugly pit that Conan fights in and gets paid half in wine, half in money and women.
Right. Not even one panel with a shot of the city or something, just to give you a sense of that you're in a city. It looks like you could have just been in a desert hovel.
Right. There's a hole in the ground that he fought in. Yeah. Yeah. And then you're right. You know, at the end of it there, you know, towards the end, then there's a big desolate battlefield. So you're right. It is lacking, I think, in those elements that would make it so much more. It's like opening up the first issue of Black Science, for instance, where this I mean, you open up and there's this incredible scene of this wildly bizarre world. To me, if you dropped Conan instead of the Grant family in that book, that would feel like a Conan book because of all that great.
That's a great choice. You know, if it had been done like that, my mind would have been blown. It would have been better than
right. So, like I said, for me, it felt like it pays a lot of homage to the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie and less so to what you would consider Conan. And in my head, what would be closer to that?
It's funny because in PR material, they had Jason Aaron talking about how he, like me, had been reading those books, the novels, since he was a kid. But there's not much sign of that here.
Yeah. Well, so how much of that is him, though, and how much of that is art, which I like this artist. I don't know.
I think he would be very good, but maybe not for Conan.
And well, so is it him, and how much of it is, how much of it is him, and how much of it is the editors allowing the choices to get made, and the time constraint. I mean, modern comic book artists to make that much background. I mean, another book I can think of that has a lot of really rich background, and that's the reason it's a fantasy book and I keep picking it up, is Seven to Eternity. That Opera art, it is so, there's so much rich details in the background of every single panel. It's another one of those books that you could drop a Conan character into, and those backgrounds would be reminiscent of the old stuff. I mean, because quite honestly, even when Conan was out in the wilderness, the rocks and the trees and the bushes were all more detailed than what this is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we can say, give them the excuse that it's because it's a monthly book, or they have to produce it maybe even more than monthly. But like you said, the Supermen of the Bronze Age were producing these things monthly too.
Right.
But I think, I think we can't tell whose decision it was to do things this way. But the end result is that it emphasizes just one side of Conan. Right,
a very small piece, and it's not the part that is that intriguing.
I do wonder if, and something that the Conan original stories don't have at all, is the idea that Conan should develop and learn to be a better human or something like that.
Well, yeah.
Conan does develop and mature, but not in the sense of, pointing a finger at himself.
Right.
The way of dealing with the world matures.
Yes, he doesn't have a self-reflection.
He's not like, I should learn to become a nicer, gentler person. It's more like, well, maybe being a thief is not the best way to make my way in the world. Maybe I should become a soldier, and then maybe I should become a king.
Right.
It's like changes in his ambition and his skill with dealing with his world.
Yeah. So you said that you were going to pick up Savage Sword. And
the odd thing is, as much as I felt like get off my lawn when I read this, it did stir up the urge for more Conan. So I'm just going to waste more money and see if they do a better job. I like the artist Ron Garney. I have no idea if he can do the fantasy world kind of thing well or not.
I'm not excited by. I didn't get this because I didn't want 2 Conan books for one thing, and I'm not a Jerry Duggan fan. I think he's like a Deadpool writer largely.
He's done a lot of Deadpool and other. He's done a lot of stuff at Marvel now. I think he did Nova and he did maybe Guardians of the Galaxy and various things, but I just haven't read them. But I wasn't going to get it either. But unlike you, I can change my mind on a dime. So
right.
He said, okay, I'm going to get it. And just
but I have to admit, the Delph cult of Kogan Thung strikes as Conan seeks the mystical treasure.
Right.
That sounds like an adventure I might be interested in versus this adventure.
And I saw some previews of Garney's art and it looked very nice, 2 or 3 pages.
Are you enough of a Conan fan that you would pick up this?
At the moment, I'm saying no. I can always give in to temptation because of where I live and how many shops there are.
So, I mean, that cover appeals to me because that cover is done by the artist who does Monstrous, which last year won.
But she's not the interior artist.
Right. No.
And how about the writer, Teenie Howard? I have not read anything by her. I know her from as someone who worked at Black Mask, but.
Right. And she's done some work for Black Crown. She's doing Euthonauts right now, which I am enjoying quite a bit. Interesting story, like the characters, the art, and it's amazing. So I kind of, I have to remind myself the art is a huge reason I like that book.
Yeah.
I haven't read a bunch of other stuff by her. I don't know. So I don't know if I don't, like I said, for me, I have to be careful because, like I said, I'm not the best fan when it comes to fantasy type stuff in the first place.
Right.
So I don't know on that. I don't know on that, but I'll be curious to see what you have to say about.
Thinking you probably ordered the first 3 issues and then you'll drop this, or do you think you're going to keep ordering it till you decide for sure that you want to?
Issue 2 will tell me for sure. If issue 2 is like this, then I'll drop it and I'll end up with like 4 issues, I think.
Right, because I think the first month there's 2 issues coming out. Well,
then I might end up with 5 then.
Yeah, I think issue number 2 is coming in another week or so, but I might be wrong.
Well, let's see. Today's the 12th. I might hold off on ordering my books. I have until like the last week of the month. So if I might line it up to, to get it or not get it, kind of a thing.
This also reminded me a bit of Aaron's independent book, The God Damned, where humanity is so awful that they just violently betray each other at every turn and torture and kill each other all the time.
Except for that book still had a character who felt like they had a direction. Some level of a compass to take them someplace. This story had nothing.
Right. The character has nothing at this point.
There's no drive. There's no, because we've time hopped for, as part of the problem, we see what happened in the past to get us where we are now. But I don't feel any ambition of Conan, any I need to do this or I need to whatever. He's in trouble, but there's nothing to take me to the next issue other than I guess the cliffhanger at the end of Oh No.
Right.
Which really honestly isn't enough.
Aaron may have some character ideas about Conan that he hasn't really revealed in this first issue. Maybe with the editorial idea that, you should just emphasize fighting for the first issue because that's what those dumb Conan fans like.
Well, I think it's a mistake.
Yeah. If that is the case. So I'm wondering if we'll be revealed further down the road, why Conan is, only into drinking and killing when he was a kid.
Right. So look, the first issue of Thor, if we want to go back to that example of him kind of telling things in different chunks of eras of Thor's life, there was a murder mystery, basically. There's a mystery at the beginning of that first issue. Something that made you go, I don't know what's in the cave. I don't know who this god killer person is or whatever. I can't remember exactly what it is, but I remember there being I don't know what this is. Nothing in this issue was left with I don't know. We know exactly what it is. Now it's just a matter of how does he survive having 2 daggers shoved in his back from children and a zombie adoptive mother.
Right.
To me, that
doesn't look good at this point.
Right. I'm
not kind of turning around and trying to rationalize how it might get better. But
right. But I enjoyed your discussion about the fact that you kind of went through the process of, this is horrible. Then you decided why you knew it was bad. And then looking out from other people's, if you looked at it as from being a non-canon book, is it okay? And it's okay. I just keep thinking it like you, there should have been more.
Yeah.
And along those lines, you're talking about the fact that you've got this idea of what Conan should be. And when it doesn't meet that mark, right, it's very disappointing. Hellblazer and John Constantine is kind of that way for me. It was this thing for so long that now these other books that come out might be good, but I am never satisfied with them. They just do not hit the right marks that it needs to have for me to be that. And I think to some degree, the character's always going to be spoiled unless somebody magic comes along. I think it's always going to be spoiled to some degree because there's elements in your mind because it hits you at the right time and the right age that this is how it should be, that now that's what it needs to be.
Yes. And that's the problem of being a long-term reader of these characters that go on forever. Part of what I talked about too is sometimes I'll read a Conan that's not that great and I'll be able to still project my idea of Conan into it. There's just enough left, and this one just went too far and removed too much of what I think of as Conan to interest me.
Yeah.
Or, you know, to make me not feel ripped off about Conan.
Right. Call it something different. Don't call it Conan. Anyway, Well, I agree with you. I mean, from what Conan that I have read and looked at and whatnot, it's not the same for sure. But I guess everything can't be the same.
I wonder how the new Hellblazer animated movie is.
Yeah, I have not seen that.
I plan to watch that soon because someone actually gave it to me. So
cool.
I'm going to watch it, see what. Cool. But I don't have your years of experience with Hellblazer.
Right.
I read the first few issues of the Hellblazer series, and at that time I was like, "Well, this is not my Alan Moore Hellblazer."
Right.
But I think it was also a period where I was buying less comics, and so.
But I'll also easily admit that I'm, for whatever reason, probably irrationally, emotionally attached to that era of that whole breadth of that character and whatnot. So.
Do you think there was, what was it, 300 issues? Do you think it was consistent during those 300 issues, or did you come in at a certain point where it became consistent?
I started from issue number 1. Oh,
you did? Oh,
yeah. Okay. I bought it off the rack because we had a comic book store at the time. I bought it off the rack. And it came out within a month or two of Sandman, before there was a Vertigo line. You know, those first issues weren't Vertigo. And I remember Eric being all excited about Sandman, and other people were excited about Sandman, and not enough of them were talking about Hellblazer. And I'm just like, are you nuts? that's cool and all, but here's this, because I like occult monstery kind of things. And so, the first issue where the first demon shows up and it's a big horde of flies that kind of solidifies into a form. And I was kind of sold then at the time. That was too cool for words at the time, for what I had access to read.
You plan to reread it someday?
Yeah, I've reread chunks of it in the past. A couple of years ago, Ethan was old enough clearly to read that kind of thing, and because of my love of it, he wanted to go back and read it. So as he was pulling those issues out and reading it, I reread it then. So I go back and periodically reread bits and pieces of it. Some of it holds up and some of it isn't as good as what I, originally remembered as being, obviously, and whatnot. And it had its ups and downs.
But somehow when he left Vertigo and went to New 52, it became unrecognizable, whereas it might have just from writer to writer.
It's like the Conan. They took a couple elements, and they aren't maybe the elements that I am most excited about. And just that was it. It was he's, by the end of issue 300, he is this almost 50-year-old man. He has been married. He has, he has this breath of life about him and whatnot. The character had moved and been all this stuff. And then they took him back to basically just being a drunk ass who actually casts full-blown spells, which was really never, in my head, he did, but it was never really he wasn't that kind of a magician.
Right.
And so they made him into a street wizard, an obnoxious street wizard who in my mind, ultimately at the end of the day would make the right decision to do the right thing, whatever the cost was. And in the first reincarnation after the Vertigo ended, he was an asshole. And he would literally was using people, and with no disregard to the expense of them.
Right.
And yes, in the Vertigo book, he's an ass, and he would do stuff like that with great regret, and then go back and try and fix it if he actually went through with whatever. And this version of the character didn't. Right. They embraced him being.
Right. Even he would say, well, you should have known I'm an asshole. So.
Right. And I hated that. Because that's one of the things I loved about the character was he's this kind of broken man who made hard choices. but really made those hard choices, not selfishly. Almost every time he was making those hard choices, it was not, he'd already forgone his own ego. He'd already forgone all that stuff and was just trying to, the really bad stuff was going to happen, and he was trying to make the best of it. And, the world isn't perfect, kind of a thing. But he didn't just blow it off as that. He carried a lot of baggage with him, and I loved all that stuff. He was a wreck, kind of a wreck of a person.
Right. Doing the right thing came with a big cost, not just, I don't care about anyone and I'm going to screw everybody.
Right. But to me, that's what it's felt like since then, what they've made the character into.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's what they've done.
Or the last version of the character, he's basically a superhero. That's where he is now. He's a superhero. He acts like a superhero.
Well, in the Justice League Dark, at least.
Well, even the last run of, in my opinion, of his own book, to me, they made him more of an action star, more of a let's go out and zap.
I was reading the Tim Seeley scripted.
Yeah. To me, it still felt more like a race around Indiana Jones zapping things as opposed to.
I suppose you're right. I just haven't read enough of the original, but I didn't perceive him as being like a superhero when I read it.
Yeah.
But anyway. I wonder if this video is set to private. Are you getting any chat?
I am not.
Because I can't find it. If it's set to private, you can just make it public after we finish.
Well, that's weird. Why would it be?
Because obviously we're recording. It says live and everything, but I don't see it when I go into my subscriptions.
That is strange. Let me see.
I've occasionally had a video accidentally get set to private, but I haven't. And I've done live videos that on purpose were private. But
well, here we go. I'm looking at the event and it says public. On it.
Oh, and you have a cat. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, I've got a couple cats.
That's quite a scene there with the one eye peeking out behind.
Yes, that's Stardust. One of my David Bowie cats.
Oh, not based on a Neil Gaiman book.
No, that's Lady Stardust.
I got them. The Bowie in her now.
Yes, I got them right after Bowie died. So go on, cat. All righty. So I don't know. Like I said, it's showing me that's public, but maybe it's not. I guess when it's all downloaded and whatnot, that
we'll find out. But usually you have some people watching.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Anyway, did you have any more Marvel?
Nope, that's it for my Marvel. So let's move on to DC books.
Okay, that's mostly what I've got in my very small pile.
I'm gonna yammer for a second because you're not reading Heroes of Crisis, or are you?
I am not. I read the first issue, and that was as far as I got so far.
Okay, so are you reading it?
No, I might read it someday, but I don't think so.
Okay, so
I have no objection to being spoiled in any way.
Okay. Well, I don't think there's anything enough in this to really spoil stuff. So Heroes in Crisis, I hate this cover, but to me it just was really cheaply looking. I don't know. But so issue number 4, I've enjoyed the book up to this point with the caveat. I really wouldn't want what's going on in here to actually change the rest of the DC universe. But it in its own exploration is kind of curious.
So as an Elseworlds, it's a good one, or
well, yeah, I've been enjoying it. It's been interesting. Good. I'm hesitant to say good, but it's really intriguing. It's intriguing, and we get these shots of people sitting in front of a camera, kind of, or I guess they're actually talking to a robot that looks like a person. So they're having a conversation with their
therapist in the
right. So I find those interesting. Those are intriguing to see some of those things because they just get these random people in the issues talking about, whatever, maybe nothing. Sometimes it's a lot of panels of nothing because like in here, there's Black Canary shows up. She sits there for a panel. The next panel, it's her going, forget this. And the next panel is her leaving. And then it's 6 more panels of an empty chair because she's not going to do it. I've been enjoying the book. Like I said, interesting book up until this issue. I did not like this issue. I've liked Clayman's art up until this issue. I did not like Clayman's art in this issue. It suddenly, to some degree, becomes static. The art has. and it's taken on all the elements of superhero comics that I kind of feel like largely to some degree we've moved away from. The wasp waisted, large breasted. I mean, all the women look the same. They all have the exact same body type. Here we get Lois Lane in a Superman shirt and her underwear. You know,
right.
she's getting
that feels like early 2000s. That kind of pose.
You know, she's getting ready to climb into bed with her beefy husband Clark Kent. You know, and in the element of all of this, we're getting dropped with this bomb that she has access to videotapes of all of the therapy sessions from this secret sanctuary place that Batman says no data leaves. And Superman's like, at one point he reveals to everybody at the end of the book, well, no, it's not true. Lois has access to all this, and she's going with the story. Right now, she's keeping the names hidden, but she's going with the story. And of course, Batman is like, this is a huge breach of trust. And he's like, but it's my wife. It's Lois. I'm a reporter. She's a reporter. This is what we do, you know, kind of a thing. There's some good jokes amongst this. There's some stuff I like, but to me, that seems like, I mean, I get that Superman's a reporter and I get that Lois Lane's a reporter. This still feels like an insane breach of trust, even for her. Even if she didn't even know who these superheroes were, it seems like an incredible breach of trust to run a story saying, hey, all these superheroes are going to therapy because they've all got PTSD.
Right.
And there's this secret place somewhere out in the Midwest that this is all happening. And I've got proof of it. To me, it seems like I don't know. It seems
even a reporter at times can think, you know, this is going beyond, you know, this is going into someone's personal life in a way that I shouldn't.
Right. So there's this scene, the idea of the scene I like, but I hate it. Like I said, once again, while I was talking, I'm going to do a comparison here. I got Batgirl this week also. So here's Batgirl, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I would not call her Batgirl anymore.
Call her naked woman with painted.
Right. And so she doesn't even really say anything. All she does is show some scars. I'm assuming that's the two places she got shot from the Joker via the Killing Joke. Okay. So then it goes to this other one, and here she is again, you know, and there is Harley in the old costume. Yay. Yeah. And they're like in some sort of House of Mirrors, but they have the same body with different body paint, right?
Yeah.
And they get in this fight. She is trying to catch Harley Quinn before Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman can get a hold of Harley Quinn, because she sees Harley as being a hurt person and needs help. And of course, Batman's just going to punch her in the face a whole bunch of times until he gets the answers that he wants. And she kind of goes through that with her. And I do like the elements of she's trying to this conversation with Harley, and it's just basically this hand fighting as they're wrestling with each other. And the hand fighting changes. And I do like that element as she kind of talks Harley down to calming down and listening to her. And, hey, I want to help you. You know, Batman's going to beat the stuffings out of you. He's not going to listen. I want to help you figure out whatever this is that's going on so we can solve what's happening. And I like that. I like that story element. Ooh, that's cool. And then we end with these two hot babes, you know.
Right.
Hugging each other. Woohoo!
It's good hot babe art. But
100%. But do you know what I mean? It's just I thought we had moved
in the context of all this psychological stuff too. It's kind of weird.
I thought we had moved past every page and everything being cheesecake. Yeah. I mean, I just kind of thought we were past that. And I'm a guy. I like good-looking ladies. You know, that's no problem. But it was a problem because it just felt like it's too much. And I haven't heard anybody really talk about this issue, so I don't know if it's just me or what. But I don't know. That part of it really bothered me. I mean, beginning of the issue, it's kind of fun. Batman and the Flash are both detectives, right? They're both over the crime scene. Batman, it's like we've got enough evidence. We have this figured out, and he's like, "Yep, we do." And the Flash goes Booster, and Batman goes Harley. And then they kind of they're out in the middle of this field, and this really long shot. My camera can't pick it up, but they both look at each other in silence. And then they both look away from each other, and the Flash swears because they still can't figure out what's going on. Wonder Woman throws her lasso around Booster, asks him a whole bunch of questions. It seems like he's telling the truth. He believes that Harley's the person that's killed everybody. But yeah, I don't know. But she also says that maybe he believes it, and so therefore the lasso won't. The lasso can't find the truth. It's just telling you what you believe, kind of a thing. So Booster Gold breaks. I mean, Blue Beetle breaks Booster Gold out of the Justice League and out of the Justice League Hall of Justice. So who knows what's going to happen there? But so yeah, I was put off by this. There's some good story elements in it. I was put off by the art in this issue.
The coloring looked great.
Yeah.
I thought it would be Jordi Belair, but it doesn't.
No. It's Moraes is doing it.
I haven't heard of that colorist before.
Well, I think it's the same colorist that used to color Gilliam March, I think.
Okay.
Who I think is a good colorist. But just as a example, the art. So here is the latest issue of Batgirl, right? This is her in her own book, and you can see on the cover there, she is not super model swimsuit action figure,
right. She looks more like an athlete and less like a
right. I mean, here she is in what would probably fall under a sexy pose where she's all stretched out.
Right.
She is not, not to say that every woman isn't buxom and every woman isn't flat chested and everybody's everywhere in between, but she just looks like she's built like a normal person, and she's not in Heroes for Crisis. And so it was just really, so I read Heroes for Crisis and I'm all the way through. I'm going, oh my God. I mean, she's this, like I said, like you said, painted on costume. So I immediately went to read this just to get a comparison between the two. And this is a fine book. It's not blowing my mind, but it's an interesting story. There are two people running for governor, the old governor of Gotham and a new woman. The new woman is kind of making it her part of her campaign speech, of course, is to clean up Gotham. Gotham PD just went through another wave of corruption inside the police force. So she is picking on the police force, which of course is making Gordon upset because they clean up their own messes and stuff. And so Barbara is going to start working for the person who's running for governor who does not like the police force, so she can get the inside scoop on what's going on there because people keep trying to threaten her life. So it's a fine story. Yeah, it's enjoyable.
So the mystery of finish your thought on Batgirl.
But no, it's like I said, I'm enjoying it. It's not like completely mind blowing, but it's good. If you have, I mean, it's a fine.
Who's writing Batgirl now?
It's a fine superhero. It is Marjorie or Margaret Scott. Now that I've said that, it's Margaret Scott.
Margaret Scott. Yeah, I feel like I've read one or two comics by her. She must be fairly new, at least in the superhero game.
I think so too. And so this issue, Paul Petler did the art on it, and Norman Rapman, who I like him as an inker. I actually own 2 pages of original art that he inked. And Jody Bellary does the colors.
So the mystery of whether your video was private or not is that some glitch happened and it is not showing up in people's feeds.
Oh.
So when I went to your channel, I found it live on your channel page, and I tweeted it out. So I put it on Twitter. And so now we at least have Jack Yo watching.
Yeah, a couple of
you.
He
also says the show never came up in his subscriptions.
Oh.
So I hope that's a one-time thing, and
right.
YouTube's deciding not to put live videos by us minor people into the
right. That would something. That would not be cool. And Jock missed the Marvel talk, and he's a Marvel reader. So
well, he can catch it on the rewind.
There you go. So that's my 2 Batgirl kind of dueling Batgirls. One of them I visually enjoy, and the other one not so much, especially for the subject matter. And I don't know, and like I said, the bodies all look the same. They just put different hair color and costumes on them. So,
well, shall we move from there to another Bat book, Detective?
Sure.
The second of Pete Tomasi's new work on Run on Detective, without his usual partner Patrick Gleason, but I think he's doing pretty well without him.
Right. Yeah. No, I think because he kind of was teamed up on Superman. The Superman issues were either Tomasi or it was Mankey, right? So I mean, he has working history with him.
He and Mankey have worked, and Mankey did some fill-in issues on Batman and Robin too.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I think he must be one of his go-to artists.
Right.
But I think Gleason was also a co-plotter and that sort of thing.
Right.
And maybe Mankey is too. You never know. But I really enjoyed this issue, except for the ending. But I'm not sure what the ending means until we get to the next issue.
Right.
It had a really amazing scene with Dr. Leslie Thompson apparently dying.
Well, that bothers me. I mean, just as a I love these characters. It bothers me. It bothers me up there with when they cut in the Batman book where they cut Alfred's hand off for a while.
But this was a powerfully done death. I mean, sometimes the deaths are done so sloppily that you know for sure they're bringing them back. This one I'm not sure because it really feels like a real death.
Well, they drug it out. I mean, she dies this slow, miserable death of being hit with Joker toxin, and they can't find the right.
And they give you all of the emotions that Bruce and Alfred will be feeling, and it's the context. Even if you haven't read about Leslie Tompkins before, you would feel the death.
Right. Yeah, you get to understand it. They do a good job of the panel work there and whatnot to give you the sepia tone, historical pages while he's trying to zap her back to trying to zap her back to life and whatnot. And I thought
different reasons than the Hulk, but the slanting of the panels somehow made that scene extra powerful for me.
Right. Well, and I'm reading it thinking one of these last zaps is she's gonna.
I know they had to bring her back. It was
it's Leslie Thompson. Yeah.
I mean, it was painful but powerful, and both Tomasi and Mankey seem to be doing a great job. I'm really appreciating. There's certain stylistic things about Mankey I don't like, but I'm really appreciating his storytelling and his way of approaching things. Just even the angles and things that he does are very powerful.
Yeah.
And so right after we get that gut-wrenching scene, they're having no mercy on us. Then we get Alfred not dying, but still a pretty
that was pretty cool though too. I mean, open the door and you get stabbed by Zorro. It's like I'm just thinking
Zorro in the lung. So Zorro knew exactly what he's doing, I think.
Right. So it's like,
somehow made it sound like James Gordon's voice.
Yeah. But that whole bell ringing and whatnot, and then him realizing what the heck that bell is, that ding, 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 ding. It's like, what the hell is that? Yes. I love Snickers bars, but man, I am freaking sick of that ad. Busting all of my comics. But yeah, I enjoyed the book up until we hit Arkham.
Exactly. Yeah, which was maybe the last quarter of the book. Although they took an entire page for this very nicely drawn spread.
Right. Well, visually it's fine. It's still fine. I don't like Batman showing up and doing that. To me, that seems too base.
Right. And he doesn't, as far as we know at this point, we're definitely spoiling this book, but in every aspect.
More than a week old, whatever.
As far as we know at this point, he has no reason to think that just beating the crap out of people who are currently incarcerated is going to lead him to the flu. It's more seems like an act of, I have no idea who's doing all these things.
Right.
Which seem very personal and direct, obviously by someone who knows a lot about
it. Right. And I guess it's just, it takes away anytime. I mean, not to say that Batman, something bad doesn't happen to Batman or Batman's things and Batman loses control for a moment of him. He's a human being. You get in a fit of rage or whatever kind of a thing. But yeah, he's the world's greatest detective. and his answer is to go out and be a thug, because that's what he's doing here. I mean, I get like in the Batman comic where he's going out and he's beating everybody up because, you know, the marriage is screwed up and all that kind of whatever's going on in his life where he's just, you know, he's emotionally wrecked. And I get that he's emotionally wrecked here because, you know, Leslie has just died. Somebody doctored 2 people up to look like his dead parents, and somebody stabs Alfred. I mean, I get that he's pissed off and whatnot, but he's not in the moment. It doesn't feel like in the moment. This feels,
it's premeditated against people who are already captured, so they can't fight back.
And he's not raging. It's like, I'm here. And he's very matter-of-factly, you know, I'm here looking for a little illumination, you know?
Right.
I have one job in Gotham, to hold the line. And, you know, he gives this coach speech, basically, like if we're going to go play football. That, like I said, the ending of this was kind of like, ooh, well, we just.
And he says, to spoil the final line of the book, the only monster in here with you is me.
Yeah.
So what I'm wondering is, because right now I hate this ending of the comic, is Tomasi going to do something next issue that's going to make me see it in a completely different light?
Right. That suddenly makes him smart again, because right now it's like, oh.
Maybe there is some clue, and maybe beating these people up, if he really does it, is not what this is about, but there's something else he's after, that this is going to bring out his enemy or something. I don't know.
Right. Well, I guess, I mean, if
I'm
really
hoping that's the case, because otherwise my opinion of Tomasi, after being so high from the earlier part of the book, goes way down. It's like the cheapest bad detective approach ever.
Right. So I have faith, I guess, that there's going to be something else to that. But yeah, it ended with kind of like going, whoa, okay. And like I said, I'm still shocked over them killing Leslie Thompson. I mean, I don't know that. But to me, that's a significant character. I mean, they did a good job of it. They did a good job of, like we said, of them having that happen. But it still feels like you just took away a great secondary cast member that I don't need to see all the time, but I do like stories where she's in it. You know, she's one of the few bright spots of Gotham. And they just killed her. So,
yeah. Well, people come back, but it does feel permanent.
Right.
Jack says that he respects and enjoys our DC thoughts, even though he only reads Green Lantern.
Okay.
Which I read this week. I only read 2 of my new books this week.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't gotten to read any of them yet, but.
Right. So we're not going to talk about Green Lantern, unfortunately, but maybe some other time.
Yeah.
And Stardust is back.
I don't know. She's normally not this friendly.
Hang on.
Yeah, clearly. Get out, Cat. Righty. I'm just gonna briefly touch on Raven, that Daughter of Darkness issue number 11 of 12. The next issue will be the final issue. It's okay. I like all the characters that are in it. It's this young, youthful group of kid magicians. The story for the second half is there are these shadowy creatures that are hunting down the arcanes, anybody who has any magic, and they're going to kill those arcane people. They are created from something else to protect humanity from the arcanes. The arcanes way, way back in the history of, and I don't think, clearly this was kind of written under its own whatever versus what's going on in the Justice League Dark books, for instance, because the stories don't match up completely on where magic's origins are and stuff for the whole witching hour stuff. But these shadowy creatures, these Reaper looking guys, were created to save humanity from the arcanes. So they were killing arcanes. Somehow the arcanes locked them away and they were sleeping and dormant for a very long time. But they've since been released. And so now they're out hunting the arcanes, which of course means they're after Raven and all these other kids. But what we find out in this issue is that over the thousands of years that these creatures, these shadow hunters have been dormant, arcanes, of course, have been breeding with humanity. And so a large portion of humanity is now corrupted, whether they actually have magic powers or not. And they're going to get rid of all of the corrupted humanity. So they're talking about killing like billions of people. So the stakes just got a lot higher. Now it's just not a matter of them saving themselves and their other magical friends. Now it's a matter of, oh my gosh, they're going to kill, 3/4 of the planet. There's not that many pure DNA humans left, supposedly. So all kinds of chaos is ensuing. They actually go to Raven's home dimension to hide for a while and are attacked there. Meanwhile, in Raven's home life, she's trying to live with her aunt. She uses her telepathic powers to erase this kind of incident that happens with her and her aunt that she's trying to. Basically, Raven is new to our dimension. She's been raised off in this other place.
Right. There was another mini series about her where she came to live with, were they born again Christians or something?
Right. And this is still that story, still going forward. It's still that stuff. She's learning how to be a regular person and all this stuff. So she has they're not overbearing the aunt and uncle, but they are definitely concerned and are invested in her well-being. Part of that for them is being Christian, but that's fine that Raven's not, if she's not, but just that whole, they're caring people, caring to the point where they don't want her to, at 16, they don't want her just disappearing for days on end and not going to school and all the stuff that you should be doing as a good kid. To get herself out of that tight spot, because she's being called back to this magic battle, she uses her telepathy to make them forget about this thing that just happened, her skipping school for a couple of days and missing some tests, and maybe she's going to fail a class. Well, in the rush to do it, she screws up and she actually literally makes them forget that she exists at all. So like they wake up and like they've fallen asleep in the living room and they're like, wow, that was weird. And they're freaking out because in their guest room is all this clothes, these pictures, and they have no idea who she is. So they like call in the cops. And so I don't know what's going to happen in issue 12. I think they're ending her relationship with her aunt because she doesn't exist anymore. They don't have a clue who she is. Just some random person snuck into their house and moved all this crap in. So I don't know. It's kind of a funny element, but there's so much other serious stuff going on. I don't know. Other than, like I said, that either ends that. Earlier in the run of this, I talked about, Night Force is going to be in it, kind of thing. Don't let that fool you. Don't get these books thinking you're going to get any of that out of that, because you're not. They throw the line out there a couple times. I could see from this, if Marv Wolfman, who's writing the book, or somebody else wanted to reconstitute a Night Force, they could. This would be the beginnings of being able to do that if they wanted to. But this would be nothing that you would need to pick up to get a sense of, even if they put out a Night Force book, a new Night Force book, you would not need to get any of this to get whatever that's going to be.
Right.
Just saying. So don't, because I know you're one of those people that likes Night Force. And
I do, although I haven't really read all the reincarnations of it.
Right. And like, Eric from Longbox Review is kind of the same way. I'm like, don't think this is something. I've found it entertaining. Some of the earlier miniseries have been better than this one. The beginning of this one was better than this latter half, other than I like the characters that are in it. The latter half of this thing feels much more rushed and less thoughtful than the earlier parts of it. But
I assume the interior art was not like the cover, which looked pretty cool.
No, no, the cover. I'm trying to remember. The art inside isn't bad. So the cover art is Yasmin Petrie, but the inside art is from Pop Man. So I mean, it's not bad. But there's lots of this kind of coloring. The magic kind of just is a swirled chaos around whatever's going on. Largely, I always open up that Snickers ad. But no, I mean, it's enjoyable, kind of straightforward.
Oh, there's Baron Winters or whatever he is.
Right. And he is an ass in this. I mean, 100%. He does not care what is happening to anybody for any reason, as long as he's getting what he wants out of it. Here's all the kids. Here's all the boy. Yeah. Yeah, here's all the kids together: Raven, Tracy 13, Clarion Witchboy, Black Alice, Zatara, who when they reach Raven's other realm, he gets motion sickness because everything's kind of swirling around and he pukes a bunch. So they have now nicknamed him Barf Boy. So the rest of the issue, he gets called Barf Boy. They pick on him and call him Barf Boy.
It's funny. It sounds pretty good as you've been describing.
Yeah. Well, no, it's a fun book. It's just not, it's not like, super deep or, really rich, but it's cool. Yeah. I mean, it's got some good elements. And like I said, I love all those youth magical characters. I mean, I would read books with them in it, quite a bit.
Right.
Yeah. So, we're going to talk our final DC book.
I have 2 DC books.
Oh, do you have 2? Okay.
I can quickly mention the Terrifics, which I know you dropped it a long time ago.
And yeah, issue 3, and that was too many issues. So what, you're on 11?
11. I guess I liked 8, 9, and 10 quite a lot. But this is back to being very disappointing. You'd have no idea Jeff Lemire wrote this if you didn't know it. And all of the characters are just turning into kind of losers in a way that I don't find enjoyable. Mm-hmm. So I've decided to drop it with this issue.
I thought it was done. I thought it was going to be done. No,
I don't think they've announced the end of this one yet. They've announced the end of the one that Dan DiDio was writing,
right,
and a number of others.
Okay,
and I had high hopes because this issue was drawn by Victor Bogdanovich,
right.
But it seems like lesser Victor Bogdanovich to me. Maybe just because the whole story is kind of about the story, about the characters being pitiful. Oh, actually, that's like the best panel in the whole book.
That's awesome. So, are they like writing into versions of themselves? I mean, I noticed when I was watching your video.
Man's son, who I think at times is called Offspring, but here they don't.
Oh yeah, Offspring. Yeah, the other eel. So, yeah.
The group has broken up, and everyone's Metamorpho is no longer Metamorpho. He's just a normal human.
So they're allowed to walk away from each other now. They won't blow up if they get.
The thing that was keeping them together no longer keeps them together. Metamorpho is human, and he can't find a job. He's very lame at doing job interviews, and he whines about it to his girlfriend. And
so
Man tries to go back to his wife and son, and they're really angry at him and drive him away.
Right. And, is there a female Mr. Terrific?
And Mr. Terrific is searching for this bad guy that is that Neanderthal character who's acting like Dr. Doom, calling himself Dr. Dreadful or something.
Oh yeah, okay.
Searching for him through the multiverse.
Right.
Meanwhile, the other characters are doing their thing, like the Phantom Girl character has gone back to her planet and is really hating her mother, forcing her to be a princess. And then we get Mr. Terrific going to different realities where different versions of him are being killed by this Dr. Dreadful. Oh. And on this one, Mr. Terrific or Ms. Terrific, I assume, is his wife, who is dead in our world.
Right. Oh, that's interesting.
And then we discover that Dr. Dreadful.
The Dreadfuls. Oh God.
Dreadfuls, which are like a vampire version of Plastic Man and a god.
Really? That doesn't make you want to pick up the next issue?
I don't know. I've stuck with this book for a long time, and
So here's a question. So Jacquio is saying that he liked Tom Strong, so he was tempted to pick it up. So what's the Tom Strong element in it? Is the Tom Strong element done?
The last 3 issues that I liked a lot had Tom Strong in it.
Oh, okay.
And it makes me really want Jeff Lemire to write a Tom Strong book.
I would just like him to write a book where he's writing it and the artist kind of help him plot it and stick to what he's writing, not them just draw whatever the hell they want to, and then he puts words to whatever they throw out. See, that to me, that's the problem with that book. It's done the Marvel way, and I don't think the Marvel way works.
It depends on the artist, though. A few artists made it work with him, and the artists on those 3 issues did. 2 of them were Dale Eaglesham, or however you know, Eaglesham.
Yeah,
and those worked really well. So, yeah, and Tom Strong and his family are much more interesting characters than the Terrifics have turned out to be.
Yeah.
So, if you're interested in Tom Strong, just read up up to issue 11, or start around issue 7. I think set 6 or 7 and go to issue 10, and you'll have all the good Tom Strong stuff, and you don't need the rest.
Which is a shame because I love all those characters. The characters that make up that group are great characters. They're all really fun characters. I've enjoyed lots of reading stuff with most of them and whatnot. Phantom Girl less, but so that's yeah, like I said, that's just a shame.
Yeah, I had high hopes for this thing.
Same.
Yeah. But I had high hopes for the other DC comic we
right. Same here. And maybe that's part of my problem is that I was like, I wanted to read enjoyable Wonder Woman. We had the Robinson way too long, like almost 12 issues of him. And so I've just been waiting for somebody else enjoyable to come back to the book. Super excited to hear that G. Willow Wilson was going to be on it.
Yeah, I enjoyed back on just for her.
Right. Same here. Was excited about that. Don't know a lot about the artist that was on the book, but I have not enjoyed the art at all. I do like this art considerably more. This art is for me is considerably stronger for this book. I
completely agree. This art was kind of a turnaround from the previous issues.
Right. I'm not jumping off of it yet. There are elements about it that I am curious about. I like the ideas potentially. I'm just not sure that they're actually going to come through on any of those ideas. The whole love and war. My problem is it just feels like these are elements that they're the same elements that get hung on Wonder Woman as always. Right. And to some degree, I'm fine with that because obviously all characters, I mean, Batman only deals in a few elements, quite honestly, too.
True.
It's not like I don't like any Batman stories. So, I mean, I'm curious about Aphrodite. Kind of, I want to be something else. I mean, there's still stuff there that I'm. It's just the problem is like the first 2 episodes. I mean, first two issues were so pedestrian.
Yeah.
I don't know. I do not like Steve Trevor in this though.
No. And I don't like Ares in this. You need the villain to be. I don't know. I don't like
Ares. I don't like Ares as a villain, to be honest.
I was trying. Well, I liked him he wasn't that much of a villain, but I liked him in the Azzarello run.
Well, that was completely different. That's him giving up a mantle. I mean, that's a really fascinating element that's not in this. I mean, that's not, we're not talking that kind of.
Yeah. So I felt like the first 3 issues with the other artist, whose name I should know because I've read actually a lot of comics drawn by him, but they did not work. And I thought, well, if we just get a different artist, things will really click. And this artist is really good. Kind of gives us a Wonder Woman that looks like the woman in the movies.
Right.
But really, really nice art. And I still did not like the story at all. I mean, I didn't hate the story. I just didn't care.
Right. Well, here's my thing. It touches on some potential elements. I'm curious about Aphrodite being on the planet, and I don't need to be Aphrodite anymore. I can be whatever I want to. That's all interesting. I think there's some interesting story there.
Were both Aphrodite and Ares dead, and now they've come back?
No, I don't think so. Ares was locked in this interdimension. And did you read all of the Rutger run?
No, you know what? I bought it all, and then for some reason I stopped reading it, and I didn't finish reading.
So in that run, they lock Ares. We find that Ares is locked away in a fractured, this like in between dimension, kind of a thing, like an in between Themyscira and the rest of the world. He's locked away. In that place, and that's what the hints are at the beginning of this, of him getting out of that.
Because I thought he was getting out of hell.
No, he's locked away in this place. That woman that was with him is I believe the daughter of the kind of like the main villain of the Rutger run of stuff, where it was her faceless, her faceless child that was locked away in this place. Anyway, so he breaks out of that. I mean, him being locked away in there kind of, kept him from causing the major havoc that Ares tends to cause. Aphrodite, I assume, is just on Olympus with all the other quietly sleeping gods or whatever kind of thing. So I don't know 100% about that. This is like, I don't know about the, these other mythological creatures that are now walking around that area, why that's all happened. We don't have an answer to that part, I don't think yet. My biggest problem with this story was, like I said, I was interested in that, the conversation with Steve, the fact that she thinks Steve is kind of a simpleton because he this whole, he is buying into love, and she's like, no, it doesn't really work, right?
Aphrodite's over love,
right? I kind of like that. It's like, no, that doesn't.
Cleverest part, yeah.
But the largest chunk of the book is them running from the capital, wherever the president of this unnamed country in the Balkans, it seems like, is a mad dash across the battlefield with them lassoing missiles and tossing them around and whatever. It seems like that was most of the comic, was them going, we're not going to make it. Oh, watch out. Oh, careful. To get to haha, it's actually Ares, and he's pissed at everybody because you've taken the wrong side.
Yeah.
And man, I kind of like the idea of Ares showing up initially and going, I've learned better. I understand now that it shouldn't just be about war. I should do justice. You do justice, I'm going to do justice too. And of course, his version of justice is extreme. It's not. So that I kind of like that too. It's just, they floated these ideas, but they're not getting to them. We're not exploring them. They're just there.
Right. They don't embody them in a compelling story or compelling characterizations.
Right.
Which doesn't seem like Willow Wilson. I mean, I feel like at the very least, she does very compelling characterizations and dialogue and all of that. And I don't see this here. There's no way I would guess this was by her.
No.
If I were on my own trying to figure out.
No, not at all. And I can't pronounce the person's name. The guy who does the colors in this are excellent.
Yeah, the colors, and the artist is very good for.
Yeah.
So I just decided like you, I'm reading too many comics. So only so much time. So I've decided Wonder Woman's gonna have to go rest for a while.
Yeah, I'm gonna hang on for a few more issues to see, if something else, comes of it, because I want to be a
Quacking duck is
my daughter's come to say goodnight to me, I think. Is that what you're up to? So
what are you guys talking about?
We're talking about Wonder Woman and how we don't like the current Wonder Woman comic.
Yeah, we like Wonder Woman, but the current comic is not so good.
Yeah.
But I'm going to hang on for a few more issues because I like Wonder Woman. So
you're the hanger-oner in a lot.
Yeah, I am. I'm that.
Although you gave up, I was shocked that you gave up on Terrific so quickly.
Yeah.
There, you made your decision and you stuck with it.
Yes.
What?
The comic book, The Terrifics, this one, which I finally decided to stop getting. Yeah. Okay. Good night, by the way. Do you want to take that with you?
No.
You can. There's nothing gross in it, but it's not a great comic. Okay, I'll see you in the morning.
Oh.
Could you close the door for me so I won't bother you guys quite so much? Sure. Go ahead and take it.
Guys were not
it's just not a great comic. It's nothing bad. Bedtime reading.
Oh, right on. Comics are the good stuff for that. That is it for my DC books.
Yes. We kind of dragged DC and Marvel out. I only have one indie book. You probably have plenty.
I have a.
Last week was just a very short week for me.
I definitely have a fistful. Hex Wives. So Hex Wives is one of the new Vertigo books. This is issue number 3.
This isn't the one with controversy around it, is it?
No.
Oh, okay, good.
No, I probably won't even have a conversation about.
Okay.
Yeah,
you're never going to read the end of that other one anyway, if you're
right. So I'm done. I mean, even if there's another issue, I won't read it because I'm not going to get the full story anyway. So whatever. And I wasn't as high on that book as what everybody else was anyway. So, but no, Hex Wives. So it is a story about, basically there have been witches throughout time, and they've had a certain amount of power, and there's been a certain amount of male animosity towards those ladies throughout the centuries. Battles between the witch hunters and the witches were set in what's the equivalent now of like 1950s. And the men have figured out how to make the women dumb, for lack of anything else to call them. I have a really hard time with this book because so it's kind of set in a 1950s element. The men are manipulating the women. They live in this cul-de-sac that is surrounded by fire because they're in California where there's these wildfires all the time. And the wildfires just happen to burn the right way to keep everyone from leaving except for the menfolk. They can like sneak out to go to work, but the women never leave the cul-de-sac.
And this
they
is
live
written
there
by a man, right? Ben
Yes.
Blacker?
Yes, and art by Makura Andolfo. And so I've been struggling with the book. In this issue, we suddenly, our main character, she's in like a room that she didn't know even existed in her house. And she finds this old woman naked, chained to a chair. And she's like, you got to get me out of here. Remember who you are. Remember who your sisters are. And she's like the old crone. She's like the mother witch. And these witches just keep being reincarnated. The men ultimately catch them, burn them at stakes or drown them or whatever the case may be. And then they're resurrected. And they all get resurrected, find each other, and regain their power and go about whatever potentially their business is, living their lives until these menfolk, these hunters show up. Well, now the hunters are all married to them. They know they're witches, but they've somehow got them brainwashed into them, not letting them get the full grasp of what they are. So it's all these kind of really creepy, frustrating to me scenes of the women going, "Gosh, honey, I'm sorry, honey. Let me make you, a tuna fish sandwich," and the whole 1950s, woman just makes a drink and caters.
Stepford Wives.
Right. And when the men aren't there, they're out in the yard, each other's yards, talking to each other and sipping wine. And it's just, to me, it's so frustratingly unreal that I just have a hard time. I don't enjoy reading it. And then we get these elements. Where, like here, she's freaking out because she's found this old naked woman in this extra room. And she's like telling her these secrets and stuff. And she's really confused, but she's starting to get the sense of there might be something else. And then the husband shows up and clunks her on the head, and she ends up forgetting about the whole thing. And we find out in this issue that the men actually, when they leave the cul-de-sac, drive through the fire, they actually go to a secret bunker, and they're all watching these witches. The whole neighborhood. Here's the cul-de-sac neighborhood. Underneath it is these bunkers, and they hide in these bunkers and watch the women and keep them under control because they don't want them to turn into witches again. And as long as they keep them kind of sedated, living this weird 1950s tranquil life, that they will, keep control of them. Well, they feel like the women are getting restless. So the men folk all show up and go, "Hey, we got this. We signed this big deal at work. We're going on a picnic." They attempt to go on a picnic. The fire rages. "Oh, sorry, we can't go on the picnic." One of the guys kind of like sacrifices himself and gets burnt to really make them all scared and think, "Oh, I should just be happy living in my cul-de-sac and not worry about what's out there." It's kind of backfired though. Some weird elements are starting to happen in it as far as the ladies are kind of wondering that the world isn't as perfect as what they thought it is. This one woman tends this garden that she hates, but she tends it every day. And the neighborhood cats keep coming to her garden and pooping in it. And she's getting angry about it. And she ends up snipping off the head of one of the cats. Cats being familiars, it's now suddenly going to cause havoc. I don't know. But like I said, I have a really hard time. I don't know that I enjoy the book, and I have a really hard time reading it because the whole tranquil life they live, I just want to walk through the comic and grab people and shake them and go, "Don't act this way," because they're just so pacified. It's just
if
crazy.
They take out of it, will you enjoy it more? I mean,
yes, I have not enjoyed it up in
have them fight back, basically.
Yeah, when I got to this issue and suddenly things get dark, and they, like I said, they find this crone, hidden in a room they didn't realize they had in their house. I'm like, ooh, suddenly it's exciting. Something's going to happen besides just them living these awful pacified lives. And then she gets conked on the head after 3 pages and it's back to it again. So I don't know. I get it cheap. I get it 50% off. It's part of a bundle. So I just get it and I read it because it's in my pile. But
so do they just always have a Vertigo bundle?
Yes, they seem to.
So if you're willing to read every Vertigo comic, you save a lot of money.
Yeah. And usually I like right now it's the book that's been canceled. There's one other new book right now, and the rest of it is the Dreaming line. And I pretty much other than one book. So if
all of those probably.
So if I'm getting 8 books and 2 of them are or it's getting canceled, for me that's a pretty good deal.
Right.
At $1 whatever a book, $1 something a book.
Yeah, that's very good.
Yeah, like $1.89 or something a book. It's kind of.
So presumably this comic is making a feminist point in the long run.
Yeah, I mean it is. It has those elements there. The disembodied voice hasn't gotten. She's behind by 2 months, so she hasn't gotten into reading it yet. I'm looking forward to hearing what her thoughts are.
Right, and she's not only a woman, but I remember correctly that she did some feminist studies at some
Yes. I mean, she's not remotely close to a raging feminist.
Right. But I mean, she's done some academic look at this kind of thing. So it'd be interesting how she would read it on that level.
Right. And like I said, she's not insensitive to the way women are treated, but she's not wrecked on a daily basis by.
It's not controlling her in whole life.
I'm not oppressing her so much that she thinks that.
Right.
That she's let on anyway. Yeah. But so
there's always something odd when a man is making a big feminist statement.
Right.
I mean, it certainly can be done, but and it certainly sounds like it has all the elements of this could be a metaphor for the way men have kept the power of women in check.
Well, and it's 100% that. It's just when are they going to do something with it? That's my problem. Is I guess I'm sensitive enough to it that I don't like the situation. It's so saccharine and pacified and complacent that it just drives me crazy. It's like, come on, nobody actually functions this way. So I'm waiting for it to crack. And maybe by the end of this issue, it's starting to crack. I mean, I don't want it to just be a slap fest between, the burn them at the stake guys and the witchy women. I want there to be a story in between there, but holy cats, the way the lives these people are living, it's like a June Cleaver times 10 kind of a thing. It's just like, oh no, just doesn't work that way. So
yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. And presumably it's not a long series because I don't think Vertigo does long ones too often anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. Mostly they typically don't do ongoings, or they set it up in a way where they can potentially do an ongoing, or they can cut it at a trade because Vertigo books don't sell in single issues. It's a complete trade business, really. So so I don't know. Some of the other new books that are coming out from them, I have been enjoying. So are you still reading BPRD?
No, because it was supposed to be over, and so I ended it, and I don't feel like picking it back up.
But you know what? It might have been a good call. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love all BPRD. I love the Magnolia universe. Yeah. I mean, this week I end up with two books, Hellboy and BPRD 1956, which is kind of a joke because Hellboy is like, in one panel, he's in Mexico, drunk off his ass, hanging out with the luchadors going, I love you guys. And that's the only Hellboy that's in the issue.
Right. I read, they must have had one like for 1954 or 55. I read one of those.
Right.
And it was okay, but it didn't really go anywhere.
Right. And I think that this is going to be what the BPRD is going to be going forward, because they are once again going to end this. They were going to end it. It got really crazy, right? The world's broken. They beat the giant monsters. Yay. Then Mignola decides he's coming back to comics. So it's like, okay, we're going to keep going. We get The Devil You Know. So they're addressing the child that's possessed by the demon and all of that kind of stuff. The BPRD are fighting more of the kind of leftover fringe stuff that's left over from the giant monsters and fighting the occult. And now Rasputin has reemerged as a great dragon, and the giant monsters are kind of rebirthed with Rasputin coming forward again. So we're going to get the final battle between Rasputin.
Tired, like they've just run out of ideas in their.
It's like it feels like we're going to get this final battle between Rasputin and Hellboy, Abe Sapien, and Liz Sherman. You'll get the original gang back together to go lay fists, which to me is kind of a bummer because I liked the way it ended, even though I'm, don't get me wrong, bummed the whole thing was ending. But I liked when it was Liz and Johan, just being super powerful and, hammering the Black Flame and then hammering these giant creatures to finally ultimately end it. Right. Leaving the Earth in scraps, but there was something left to tell a story with it.
To rebuild or something.
Right. So this it feels like they started to do a swan song, quit, and now they're this is for real now. This is the swan song. So in that sense, it's kind of a bummer. It's not as strongly written as some of this other stuff was. I still think that largely the John Arcudi stuff is the strongest of the BPRD written stuff. If you're interested in the BPRD stuff, that's the stuff to go back and read. Because, on these books, Chris Robinson is the kind of like the main writer to help bring Mignola's ideas to fruition.
It assumes that they co-plot it, and then the second writer does the actual scripting. That's how I assume it.
Right. Yep. That is how it is, and it's not as good as what it used to be.
Yeah,
it's just not. Chris Robinson isn't as strong of a character builder with these books as Arcudi was. Yeah. So I'm still enjoying them. I love this universe. I love all the whatever. Supposedly there's big plans going into 2019 of how they're going to do the Mignola universe going forward. But I'm not as excited about it as what I once was. It's lost with that kind of ebb and flow of, is this the end? Is this not the end kind of a thing?
Right.
It's kind of lost some oomph along the way. So I'm hoping somewhere it catches its mojo again. Because like I said, the trappings and the world that is this, for me, is really cool. I love all those elements. I love those characters. So I hope it gets some magic back.
Yeah, I kind of hoped if they came back that they would come back in a different format, not the giant apocalypse affecting the whole world, and do something smaller, character-based. I mean, they always do character-based stuff, but
Well, I thought we'd slip into more of the stuff like you were still reading it when we had those brief stories of the Catholic woman who had the ability to do exorcisms and whatnot, and she could summon up that flaming sword and fight. She was actually a Christian-based person. I was hoping we were going to get not necessarily just of her, but more of those kinds of stories. Just kind of the
shorter stories,
the offbeat. Here's an agent over here in the Ozarks, and then they come across this weird cabin in the woods, and they have to deal with whatever. We get a couple issues of that. Then we'd be over in in Maine.
Kind of their roots. That's what the original strength of the Hellboy universe was. All of these cool shorter stories.
Right. A group of them, not always the same group, would rush off to some weird bump in the night sort of thing, and either it would be a real thing, Wendigo stealing people's souls, or it would be, the Nazis with some quasi paranormal scheme that they had going to try and reclaim their stranglehold on the world kind of stuff. It was always one of those kinds of things, and I enjoyed that. And it just kind of it's felt like the whole thing has lost some steam along the way. So, and I'm hoping that's not the case. I'm hoping it's not just Mignola going, well, I've still got a few ideas, and when I quit comics, I got scared, and so I'm coming back, but I'm playing it safe, kind of a thing. I mean, I don't know that for sure that's what it is, but I sometimes wonder.
Could be he has a plan and he's doing this to set up something else, but it's
right.
too bad you have to go through it all with him.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, what do you got?
All I've got is Savage Dragon.
Oh, okay.
Which, for all it looking like a Bronze Age Marvel comic, is just one of the oddest comics out there. This character here, who's on this cover homage and looking like Doc Samson, right? He is Captain Tootsie, a real Golden Age superhero who was originally conceived of to sell Tootsie Rolls.
Nice.
And then when they stopped using him to sell Tootsie Rolls, his creator, C.C. Beck, actually did some real Captain Tootsie adventures. I found this out by reading the back matter.
Oh my.
So he is mixed, and I get he is mixed in with this other plot about the fact that his wife is trying to recover from having been raped to death by a demon, and then brought back to life by his savage dragon's blood will bring people back to life. There's just, it's so weird.
God, and I mean that's such a vicious plot line that
yeah, before his wife died, and when she came back from heaven, she was a nymphomaniac, and now she died being raped by a demon and went to hell, and when she came back, she's horrified by sex, as would make a lot of sense if you were raped to death anyway.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say about it. You know, for a while I thought that Larson just wanted to do wild sex scenes, but now there does seem to be thought behind it all, but it's still very tasteless.
Right.
Especially because this issue begins with him having a fight with a sex robot who he defeats. And so he's smashing up this over sexy looking Playboy bunny type of woman before we get into the whole plot line about how he doesn't know how to deal with his wife being raped to death and how to comfort her.
Wow.
What a weird book.
Yes.
But I enjoy the art, and I can't wait to see what he's going to do next in this weird kind of way.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's, you know, Larson is one of the leaders at fighting back against Comicsgate and such.
Right.
But his politics are not what your typical sort of SJW white knights politics would, but to judge from his books.
Right, right.
He's just got all kinds of wacky ideas, some of which to me are, despite him being about the same age as me, very immature seeming. And then some of them are mature, you know, more thoughtful ideas. But I admire him for, you know, basically mentally putting everything, including the kitchen sink, into his one comic book.
Right. And it does seem that way sometimes. He's just, I feel like doing this. So today I'm adding this into my comics somewhere because that's what I feel like, kind of a thing. And he consistently just cranks out a book every month, right?
Every month. And he writes it and draws it. Someone else colors it. Mm-hmm. And he gives you, you know, you're paying $3.99, but you're getting many pages of letters where he really answers honestly, and then you're getting other comics done by friends of his at the back. Or I think sometimes he's just I think sometimes someone's just sent him art samples and he writes a little script for them to do or something. To get their start in comics. I'm not sure if I'm right about that, but I thought I read that somewhere. And I don't always read all the back matter. Now I want to read this because it looks like Golden Age.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Huh.
So it's a nice, creativity can do all kinds of crazy things.
Right. Right. You know, there are books I appreciate for that are just so far off whatever doing their own kind of thing. You gotta give them credit for that, if nothing else. Right. So
yeah.
There are books that I want to talk about. Low, Rick Remender book is finally back. It's been gone for, I don't know, feels like a year. I have no idea.
Could you pick up on what was going on?
Yeah. Yeah. I love this book so much that I remember the prior 19 issues without any real issue whatsoever. This issue, the first page kind of goes over what has happened. It does give you that first page in case you've forgotten. This is where we are. I'm a really big fan of Tunichi's art in this. Dave McCraig does the colors. The art for me has slipped though. The art was at its best when it was just when Tunichi was doing all the art. He was coloring his own work and whatnot. It was super, super rich. It basically looked a lot like the cover. Just lots going on, lots of really vibrant stuff to it. He colors his own stuff differently than when somebody else is coloring. I think he does. I think he's like Christian Ward in that he does very little pencils, and then the coloring lifts the art. So with somebody else doing it, somebody else has to lift the art. So it like I said,
know his intentions as
well. And see, Dave's been doing it for a while now,
and he's a very good colorist in general.
Yes. And actually is a decent artist in his own right. He does, but I'm not saying I don't like it. It's just not as sharp as what it was. And Dave's been coloring it for at least an arc, so it's not like he's just suddenly come on the book. But I guess it's just softer and fuzzier on the edges of the art than what I remember it being. I need to drag out an old issue to be for sure, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. That's wrong. That feels different to me. It's not as crisp. Story is still excellent. I still really like it. It's this whole, hope or no hope kind of a thing. It's a world, it's Earth sometime in the future where ozone is gone. We've got the Earth is getting closer and closer to the sun because the sun's expanding. You can't live on the planet on the surface anymore. People have dived to the farthest depths of the ocean. The oceans are losing their oxygen. Can't figure out how to reproduce any more oxygen. Food is getting scarce. Most of these underworld places are dying off. They've sent up probes. They're sending probes out into space, hoping they can find some alternate world, because these underwater worlds that they're living in are actually spacecraft, so they could launch them someplace if they can find someplace.
Because I read the early issues. I don't know if they said that early on.
No, they didn't. It's later issues, and in this issue, the mother Stella, she is actually on the Earth's surface. There are things that survived on the Earth's surface. There are actually humans that survived on the Earth's surface. They have mutated over time due to the exposure to radiation and whatnot. They are very bitter, and they hate the people that are under the water, because we find out that there's a whole group of them who are the ones that were building the devices that everybody else is living in, that they built them. They started getting exposed to the radiation. They wanted to go and live in some of these underwater places, and the underwater places went, no, we have no room in the inn. Sorry, you can't come in. So over generations, they built up kind of like their own army, and they are actually the ones that have been going down and wrecking stuff down in the water. We find out that the Earth people, their surface people, are the people who are actually starting some of the horrible chain of events that have been going on from the beginning of the book to cause the stuff that's going on for them to have to try and escape at a faster rate. We find one of these mutated humans is in another giant mech suit that we saw from the beginning of the book, and he basically is crushed. He set the probe up to make them come to the surface to see if he can catch some more of the last ones. He now has the ability, by catching Stella, he now has the ability to go down and open up the last place that people are still alive at underwater and finish them off, it seems. So where do we keep grasping at hope in this book? If that's what's going to happen, I don't know, but I'm looking forward to that, because that's how the book has been anyway. We get this giant ebb and flow of hopefulness, and then everything being dashed, and then how do you find hope again to build it all back up? I enjoy that. I've had people, when I've talked about this book in years past, criticize me that they think the whole idea is corny. Cool. I get that. You can see it as being corny. I don't. I like the idea of there being hope in the world. So we'll see. I don't see how it's going to end well. There's not going to be a happy ending. I just will see.
Have you seen that they have a plan for ending it at some point?
Yes, it's soon? Ending. I think this is like the last arc. I want to say, I feel like they've told us what issue it's going to end in. I don't see it right off here, but I do know in the back matter at the end of it, they basically said, we're giving you we wanted to give you a good ending. So, here we are.
I wonder
we're heading into the final arc now. So I don't know if that means we're in the final arc or if that means
this is the arc leading up to the final arc.
Right. Right. But a lot of Rick Remender's books are ending now.
Right. I was just
Black Science is about done. Yeah.
I was just going to say, I wonder if Rick Remender is going to start ending books and is moving on to Hollywood.
Well, he's still got some of the books. He says he's still got stories to tell. He says he still has stories to tell in Deadly Class. And he still has stories to tell in the
fantasy one he's doing?
No, the one he's doing with Bengal. The car one where they're driving around and
oh, I forgot about that one entirely.
Yeah. He says he's still got stories to tell there, but he does have more plans for more television.
Comics.
Yeah. More television. And television and stuff like that. So I don't know if that means he's going to slowly remove himself completely. I think he probably should maybe cool the jets until he knows how well Deadly Class is as a show. I enjoyed it. I watched the plot, the pilot on YouTube.
But he may have all kinds of development deals going on. Once you get one big one or big-ish thing breakthrough, then you start getting other offers.
And that could be, and good for him. I mean, if he can turn this into more stuff, awesome. I've enjoyed most of the last comics that he has done.
I'll miss it too. I loved the art on that one. And so I went from buying it in singles to deciding to get it in trades and then suddenly realizing, no, I'll get it in hardback.
Right. Because they're putting out really oversized, gorgeous hardbacks for sure. Yeah.
Too bad that the art's gone downhill a bit, but still I want to get it all in hardback.
It's a book that probably I will pick up in those fancy deluxe version once the whole thing's done. And I'm pretty sure I can get a full set. I will probably, it's another one of those books I will probably double dip in that way. So I can have them on my bookshelf too. So, yeah. Another Vertigo book, one of the Sandman Universe books, the Books of Magic #3. I continue to enjoy this comic. It's just kind of fun. It does have some unfortunate Harry Potter parallels. Young kid who's learning magic. Is kind of a loner of sorts. The last issue, he gets attacked by some people, and he whips out a bunch of magic and accidentally slaughters a whole bunch of these kind of entities that were trying to take him out.
Right.
So he's kind of wrestling with the moral quandaries of that. He's suffering from massive nightmares, so he is told to basically think of a wall, to protect himself from the nightmares. And he basically conjures up this owl. So that's just another element that makes it feel Harry Potterish.
Right. That picture looks very much like it could have been an illustration from a Harry Potter.
Right. But I like Tom Flower. I like his style of art. Jordan Boyd does a good job on colors. So I'm like it on the Kate Howard. It's an interesting story. I like the kid. It's not anything super deep, but it still feels fun as this young kid starts down the road of, is he going to be a good magician, or is he going to be a magician of evil? And what does that mean? And what all does he get to take on? I mean, he's missing his mother. The last issue is the reason he got himself in trouble is he tried casting some spells to try and find his mother. And in the process of that, he's exposed himself to some other evil elements that think he should just be killed off, because that would be the answer to the prophecy of, is he going to be a wizard for evil or a wizard for good? Let's just kill him and then we don't have to worry about it, kind of a thing. So there's people that are hunting him. He has a teacher at the school that he normally goes to, and she is also his magic teacher. She's not particularly helpful, and she's a bit sinister herself. She seems to have his interest at heart, but at the same time, she's also cooked down the skull of his dead teacher and has painted some sigils on his head to get some answers from him as to what has happened. So, yeah, she may have his best interest at heart, but she's pretty hard boiled about it too. So it'll be curious to see how that plays out and whatnot. But it's enjoyable. It's not my favorite of the Sam Universe stuff, but it's fine.
And this is another writer that I think came from the world of prose, right?
Yeah, I believe so too.
She's doing an okay job. She's not.
Yeah.
Because that's always my worry with the novelist comes in and does a terrible job at presenting comics. But
no, this is plotted well. It's got good pacing. So I don't know, whoever is editing the book, those people might be handling, whatever.
That might be because the guy on Lucifer also is not a comic book writer and doing a great job.
Right. And she's teamed up with a professional, Tom Flower.
Right. I mean, I remember seeing good stuff from him.
Any stuff of his that I have read that hasn't just been like a fill-in issue on a superhero book is really good. And I believe that it's his talent that helps make those books good. So, yeah, like I said, I really enjoy it. And the final book that I read this week was Animosity, issue number 18. Why this looks like a flaming buffalo on the cover, I'm not sure. Because there is a fire, but the buffalo never catches on fire. The animals attack the human stronghold where they've been hanging on to all the young girls, and they've been breeding the young girls to have babies really fast because this group of humans feels like humans should be the dominant species of Earth. Earth was created for man. And they need to, but the only way they're going to be the dominant species is if they can outbreed everything else. Well, that's awful hard because there are plenty of animals out there that clearly breed faster than man does, but they're going to try their best. And of course, Jessie, our young girl from the beginning of the book, is one of the people they want to, be a breeder. And she and the animals break everybody out, and plenty of people die. And we'll see where they pick the pieces up from this, because the whole place is wrecked now. They keep coming across these small potential places of civilization. Not that they plan on staying there, because the goal still is to get Jessie from the suburbs of New York to San Francisco, where her brother is, if her brother's still alive even. Mm-hmm. And we've made it to like the interior of Virginia, I think. I mean, we've not gone very far in the grand scheme of how far you're gonna have to go to get to San Francisco. And they keep coming across these civilizations, either animal or human or a commingling, and they all seem to fall apart. They all seem to can't find a balance that isn't ultimately end up being a train wreck. Either somebody betrays somebody, or they're just constantly at war with somebody else, kind of a thing.
Do you find it depressing or just fun?
Oh, it's there are elements of it that are depressing. I find it all really interesting, just the whole idea of this. Suddenly animals can talk, and curiously, they all seem to have the same motivations that humans do. And part of me questions, would animals have the same motivations as us? But they sure seem to. I like this group of characters. I like the idea of kind of the role reversal. Here's this dog, and this dog has his girl instead of a girl having a dog. Right. And he is getting up in age. And of course, animals don't live as long as humans do, or at least like dogs don't. And this is an old bloodhound, trying to get the girl he loves. He considers her like his child, kind of a thing. How does he get her to a safe place before something bad happens to him? And he feels like he is not a good person. So it's got all the kind of story elements that we would get in any kind of apocalypse kind of a story. Mm-hmm. It's just different characters are playing those roles. So some of it is just that, and I do like apocalypse stories where people are trying to pick up their pieces. So I enjoy it from that aspect. And then when they do dip into the questions of, if suddenly animals had all this stuff, how would our reaction be with them? Sometimes they explore that too, and I like that.
I've been listening to you and other people kind of enjoying this book for 2 years now or so. Right. And I just thought it sounded like a gimmick at first, and I didn't feel interested in it, but it sounds like it's become a kind of a rich story. That's
kind of what I thought too. Okay, this isn't going to last. This is going to be fun for a while. I mean, and to start out with, it was just a hoot, just like, suddenly
because of all the reversals on humans.
Right. But this is the longest running Aftershock book. It's one of the first Aftershock books to come out, and it's still going. How it's managing, affording, if its sales are well enough, or, despite Marguerite Bennett not being very available or open anymore on social media, she's basically walked away from all of social media because it's
understandable.
Right. It's largely evil. She had built herself quite a fan base. And I think in a way, kind of like Gail Simone, she has these loyal followers that read, what's the other Aftershock comic? The Insects, but Sexed. Insects. What I can't remember what the title of it is. So people read it, and I think just kind of follow along with this too. So she has a bit of a fan base, kind of a thing. And I think that's one of the reasons why it hangs around. But clearly, it must be selling well enough to keep, to keep the creative team, in dollars and cents to keep doing it. Because I assume that's why some of those other books have kind of quit, because people have had to go off and do other stuff.
Yeah,
because there's plenty of
long enough now that there'll be a good chunk of trades for people to keep discovering.
Right. There's at 18 there has to be like 3 trades worth, right?
Yeah.
So,
and was there a spin-off?
There is another one. There was a couple miniseries, and then one of those miniseries became its own thing. There's also Animosity. Is it The Rising? Is that what it's called? I read it also, and it is set in San Francisco. And San Francisco is run by animals. It's highly politicized, and that book is like reading a modern day version of Rome being run by Nero or something. It's on the verge. It's on that verge of exploding any second. They don't have enough food. You got to remember, half the workers are food, because, animals used to eat each other. Now they all have sentience and whatnot. It's more akin to cannibalism, to eating another sentient thing. But the criminals all get eaten. There is no in-between punishment. There's the whole thing is this powder keg that's just constantly on the verge of falling apart. The place is run by a wolf, a hybrid wolf that actually has cybernetic limbs. It's like this wolf is out of a cutting-edge technological lab. So it has these other elements. It's got a little more sci-fi elements to it because they are creating limbs for other animals. They're trying to build their own little army. It's all kind of backfired. There's a lot more political elements. What would it be like to try and run a city-size something during this whole kind of chaos that's going on? So it's set in the same world, but it has completely different story elements happening versus the more personal that is the actual Animosity book.
Right.
So it's interesting too. Just
sounds very tense.
Yeah, it is. Oh, there is no
relaxing book.
There is no happy moments in any of the books. They're all yeah.
Marguerite Bennett seems so cheerful, but
right. But yeah, this is some dark and dreary stuff. 100%. It is not the happy book, and it's not a book to read if you go, oh, I love animals, especially animals that talk. If you're looking for something cute, it is not the thing to pick up, because there is bloodshed and mayhem in pretty much every book. So yeah, for sure. And that's my books.
Cool. Well, it has nothing to do with this week, but I found kind of an interesting book that might interest people. It's a comics biography of Philip K. Dick. And I think it was originally a French comic.
Oh.
And so I've been reading this instead of my comics that I got this week. I haven't finished it yet. But at first I thought I wouldn't like the art. But when you actually are in the story, it does a very good job of sort of just a touch of surrealness in a biography of his life.
Right.
It's not focused on his fiction. It's focused on what was going on in his life as he was writing and not writing. And
right. Well, because he's kind of
he had psychological problems.
Right. He's kind of a surreal person anyway. So that would lend itself to that sort of a.
Yeah, I haven't got, he's still a young man in the parts that I'm reading. But I'm finding it, much to my surprise, because I was like, you know, a biography, but I'm finding it very mesmerizing. So I'll report on it some more when I actually finish it.
Well, I look forward to hearing about it, because that sounds interesting to me. That you know, I don't know everything about the guy. I don't know that I know everything about the guy, but it might be. but he is. I mean,
I do wonder how they know so much. Like, I'm not sure. I haven't read biographies of. I know there's some other biographies of him.
Right. I mean, yeah, there are definitely some out there and whatnot. But clearly, a author that I really, really like. He has influenced tons of stuff.
Many things, yeah,
tons of stuff, and he, as a person, was a bit of a mess. I mean,
yes,
some of his works are autobiographical in nature, and they're insane, because at times he was a bit unhinged. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. To me, that sounds really interesting.
And I think, I mean, it's hard to say for sure, but I feel like I'm getting this through the lens of a French perception of
which is
the life of America in the 50s and 60s,
which could add a whole other element of strange.
It's hard to know for sure, but there's something kind of cool about it. Anyway, and it was a hardback, but it was only $25.
Nice.
I actually paid cover price for once, but I felt it was a good deal.
I mean, I even love that cover. That cover is cool.
Yeah, they go for mostly very plain artwork. Almost cartoony.
Sure.
But yeah, they do it really well. So interesting. I wonder if there's many biography comics in France. Ones in America, I usually find to be like, we just hire the cheapest artists we can, and we're writing something for libraries to have for kids so they can learn about Abraham Lincoln more easily or something like that.
Right.
So I was afraid that's what this would be, but it's not at all.
Yeah. Cool. Looks really interesting. Huh.
Well, hopefully people will find this video.
Right. Hopefully after
I think only people who happen to see my tweet about it halfway through the show had any awareness that I was out there.
Huh. That's interesting. Well, hopefully it crops up afterwards. And
I'm assuming this is just a glitch and not some permanent change in YouTube.
Yes, I guess we'll find out at some point when we go do
it. We always dread these changes to YouTube that always seem to screw us up.
Yes, for sure. And well, you know what? And if nobody else finds it, I still enjoyed.
Well, true. The main point was that we got to talk about
talking with you. As horrible as it always sounds, and I always think after I say it, I shouldn't say it. I am largely here to talk to whoever else that is here with me at the time. And if people enjoy watching it after the fact, that's awesome. But that's really not why I do it. So anyway, that being said, thank you anybody who does watch this. Thank you for the people who have been watching it. Always appreciate it. Hopefully next week I think I'll be here, and if I am, hopefully it crops up and acts like it's supposed to. And thank you again for Damien for coming on, and
thanks to Jack Yo, our one commenter who managed to find the show through Twitter, I assume.
Right. Awesome. Anyway, have a good night, everybody, and until next time.
Good night.
We'll talk to you then.